All. It's been a while. I've been busy dealing with the pandemic, homeschooling, working full-time, alterations to the house, and on top of that we've had a new addition to the family, the pitter-patter of tiny feet. That's kept me extremely busy. Anyway, maybe you'd like to meet her. Here she is, Nell, daft as a brush. And Nell is 4.5 months old. She's a cockapoo and she's kept me busy. So I'm hoping that Nell will join me on my walks as I travel around to find out a little bit more about Wales and what's in the name. Now, you'll probably remember that the last episode, the last episode I was in Abergele. Well, I've not travelled too far this time. I've travelled as far as the beach in Abergele, besides Abergele, which is known as Pensarn. Pensarn Beach. Traeth Pensarn. Now, Pensarn is actually two words. Pen, meaning head or end of, and sarn. And sarn itself has two meanings, or two possibilities. One is causeway, and the second is stepping stones. The likelihood is that sarnau, which is the plural, would refer to stepping stones, and sarn is more likely to refer to a causeway. But that's a strange name for here because, well, there's no causeway. There's no reason for a causeway. It's now tripping me up here. It makes no sense at all. There's no causeway, all we've got is a beach. There's no estuary, there's no inlet, there's nothing. So causeway is a bit of a mystery. But the clue is in the name of the local Welsh primary school. And that's called Ysgol Glan Morfa. Ysgol meaning school. Glan is the shore or the side or the bank. Glanafon would be a riverbank, Glanmore, seaside. And Morfa actually means a sea marsh, which would indicate that Abergele was at the side of a sea marsh. Very difficult to see from here, but to get a better idea, we need to go up there and have a look. So here we have the aerial view of the land lying east of Pensarn, incorporating the communities of Tywyn and Kimmel Bay. Tywyn incidentally means sand dunes. Now originally this whole area would have been sea marsh, known as Morfa Rhydlan Morfa, Rhydlan sea marshes. However, it was drained in order to allow the land to be used up until 1990, when the sea fought back and flooded the entire area, causing massive destruction and devastation to the whole area. It's also the site of a battle in the year 796 between King Offa of Mercia and the Welsh leader Caradoc ap Meirion. Offa had more men at his disposal, and he was victorious in that battle. He was well used to fighting battles with the Welsh, so much so that he got fed up with them, and he built an embankment, a 20-foot high embankment, which stretched from the south of Wales 177 miles all the way up to the north coast. Built purely and simply to keep the Welsh at bay, keep the pesky Welsh from their side of the border. And at the top of the screen there you can see Rhydlan, which is the Morfa is named after. And Rhydlan means red bank. Rhydd being the old Welsh word for red, and presumably it's where the word ruddy comes from. Rhydd, ruddy, as in a ruddy cheeks, the red cheeks. And land, the same as glan, simply means the side or the bank. So there we have it, Morfa Rhydlan from the air.
Yn ifanc yr oedd yn un, a'n tadau oedd yn gytun. Mae un o'n tiroedd oedd rhaid i gadw yr heddwch ddibaid. Ffrain cleiadau i ffwrdd, ond ffawd a naeth i ni gwrdd, a thyngu gadw yn dair, rhwng muriau yr eglwys yng Nghaer. Tir Gwynedd a dyfodd yn gryf.
So, another lockdown. Honestly, this film is taking me longer to film than the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But hey, I will persevere. So we're back on the beach now. Not far from the start of that clip from the sky. And we're walking on the beach. But over my left shoulder there runs the railway line. The North Wales Coastal Railway line. And had things panned out slightly differently, Abergele would probably have been far more famous than it is, because that railway line was the intended target of Mudiad Amddiffyn Cymru on the 1st of July 1969. Mudiad Amddiffyn Cymru is the Welsh defence movement. And the date, the 1st of July 1969, is significant because it was the date of the investiture of Charles Windsor as the Prince of Wales. Now, in the 1960s, the Welsh nationalist movement was rife. It really was. There had been a number of, awful incidents in which Wales was treated very poorly. Whatever your politics are, whatever you think about it, there's no getting away from the fact that there were some atrocities. The drowning of Capel Celyn, the clearing of Mynydd Epynt, the Penllyn bombing school, and all the rest of it. And the sentiments were strong. Mudiad Amddiffyn Cymru, led by John Jenkins, started a bombing campaign in Wales, throughout Wales. Now, on the eve of the investiture, Alwyn Jones and George Taylor, two council workmen here in Abergele, they were working on the library in the town, died as a result of a bomb that they were in possession of accidentally being discharged, resulting in their deaths. Now, the speculation is that that bomb was intended for the railway line, where Prince Charles was due to be ferried to Carnarvon, 20 miles to the west. However, the bomb went off and the both men were killed, and the train was left unhampered, as it were. Had things been different, then yes, Abergele would have been famous for something much, much different. Anyway, John Jenkins has said that it was never the plan to bomb Charles's train, but possibly to disrupt the line so the train couldn't arrive at Carnarvon. There'd been some sort of disruption. Now, it's important at this point to say that the family of George Taylor deny the fact that he was part of Mudiad Amddiffyn Cymru, and they believe that he was involved simply by trying to persuade his friend Alwyn Jones not to set off the bomb. And there's no evidence at all of George Taylor being part of MAC, and even a detective who was working on it claimed that he wasn't even on the radar. So be as it may. Now, up until 2009, the deaths of Alwyn Jones and George Taylor were celebrated with a march, the Martyrs' March through Abergele, and that came to an end in 2009. So yeah, there you go.
Gwely o hyd, a brewis yn gynnes a chlyd. na I gadw at fy ngair fel ein ffyddlon fel wawr.
Right, before we leave Pensarn Beach, Nel, ti'n yma? Nel's seen a dog, wants to go and play. Aros ti efo fi wan? With me? Ach di? Yeah, sorry, I got distracted then. Yeah, prior to leaving this beach, we need to make mention of other tragic events that caught the headlines back in 1995, when Anthony Davis, a local family man, was murdered here on the beach, some distance behind me there. And he was the fourth and final victim of Peter Howard Moore, who became known as the Man in Black, the serial killer who came to prominence here in the north of Wales in 1995, where he killed 4 men. And it was discovered that over a 20-year period, he violently sexually assaulted a total of 39 men that we know of. Could have been more. But yeah, he's currently incarcerated, doing a life sentence for his atrocities. And a bit sad really that happened at all, but that it happened in 1995, only a very short time after the Carreg Heddwch, the stone of peace, or the rock of peace, the peace rock, was placed in the car park here on the Traeth to commemorate the end of hostilities in Europe during the Second World War. So yeah, a bit ironic really, a bit sad. Anyway, time to leave the beach, go back inland, and we'll go, I think, to where we first started the journey, up in Coed Gopa, to a place called Castle View, Gwrych Castle, where we'll have an overview, hopefully, of Castell Gwrych Castle, which you may or may not have heard of, but it featured in a little bit of a popular programme in November last year, when Anton Deck joined us here in the town to film I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Right, I'm hoping that over my shoulder here now that you can just see a glimpse of Gwrych Castle. I will put some more footage up there of a better view, but there's Gwrych Castle down in the bottom there. It's the most imposing building in Abergele, and you see it as you pass by. You can see it from a distance. It's a very glamorous building, not a castle as such, more of a folly. It was a bit of a showing off by the Bamford Hesketh family, who built it in dedication to their ancestors. And it was built in 1810 and took about 10 years to build. Now, the Lloyd family initially lived in another building just seaward side of where you see the castle now. So it's called Gwrych Castle, and Gwrych means hedge, which is a bit of a strange name for a castle, but it's taken from the original building over there, the ancestral home, which was called Plas yn y Gwrych. Now, Plas means a manor home, a stately home, and yn y Gwrych, in the hedge. So it was the manor house built in the hedge. And hence the Gwrych stayed, because the family became known as the Lloyds of Gwrych. Now, the original site of where the castle stands was called a Vron, which means a rounded hill. It means breast, so it's a rounded hill. And in 1810 they built this. Now, it passed on from generation to generation. It stayed in the family for quite some time. And possibly the most notable of the owners was Winifred, who became the Countess of Dundonald, having married a Scottish Earl, the Earl of Dundonald. Winifred was a fervent Welsh nationalist, Welsh speaker, very much into the arts, a very, very independent woman. And in actual fact, it was a very unhappy marriage. It was an arranged marriage, very unhappy. The Earl of Dundonald wanted to stay in Scotland. He was a Scottish nationalist, and she was loyal to Wales and wanted to stay here. So they lived pretty much separate lives. Now, the Lloyds had a massive estate straight into Cheshire, and she was a significant woman when you think about it, because she ran the estate single-handedly. And she also was a great patron of the arts and Welsh culture in particular. And in actual fact, she was introduced into she was made a bard in the Eisteddfod, in the National Eisteddfod, which is a significant achievement, really. So yeah, Winifred, an amazing woman, and she lived here. Now, eventually, as things are, it sort of the last of the line sort of passed out. And in actual fact, Gwrych Castle was left to the royal family, the British royal family at one stage, but they refused it. They said, no, thanks very much. And it left the family, went to different ownerships. And over the years, it came to rack and ruin and fell apart. It's had a bit of resurgence. There's a young man, forgive me, I forget his name, he's taken over, trying to get Gwrych Castle up and running again. And of course, they had a great bit of publicity in November last year when the ITV programme, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, filmed here because of the COVID situation. So they were here, yeah, and it became well known throughout the UK, although it was noticeable that the first thing that happened was it lost its name. It didn't become Gwrych Castle anymore, it became the Welsh Castle. Now, as there are more castles in Wales than anywhere else in the whole of Europe, this doesn't narrow it down much. So yeah, so it looks as if they might be coming again next year. So hopefully they'll manage to keep the name the Gwrych Castle. Yeah, so the Hedge Castle. So there we are. So that's it. I've managed to film this clip about Abergele. I'm going to leave here now. So I know you've had to wait a long time, and I apologise for that, but it can't be helped. So yeah, if you like, press the like button. Consider subscribing if you want, and press the bell. Eventually there'll be another one. So yeah, Abergele, there are plenty more, but to be honest with you, with lockdown and stay at home, I've had enough of Abergele and we want to go elsewhere. So diolch yn fawr iawn I chi am wylio, a mynwch y fi tro nesa, a gadwch yn saff.
Pan oedden ni'n iau, ein cyrffod mor fraer oedd na, a wydd crefydd y fal barhau. Rwan yn hyn, da ni'n styfnig a blin, ond hyn yn dal i wenyn hob llun, a ti'n am